blessed Lord, to thy precious bleeding side. Consecrate me now to thy service, Lord, by the power of grace divine. Let my soul look up with a steadfast hope, and my will be lost in thine. Draw me nearer, nearer, blessed Lord, to the cross where thou hast died. Draw me nearer, 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 blessed Lord, to thy precious bleeding side. There are depths of love that I cannot know till I cross the narrow sea. There are heights of joy that I may not reach till I rest in peace with thee. Draw me nearer, nearer, blessed Lord, to the cross where thou hast died. Draw me nearer, 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 blessed Lord, to thy precious bleeding side. All right.
You need me back there?
Not necessarily. I don't have anything, any slides or anything.
Okay.
Well, good evening. How y'all doing this evening? Enjoying the rain?
Yes.
Yeah, I did until I had to go out for bus duty, but other than that, and had to stand out in it for a while. That was not fun. Excuse me. So, what's your favorite thing you read about God this week? I didn't get that very well centered.
If I read the right part, he's in control.
He is in control. That's right.
There's a lot that I believe Jesus taught us to keep it simple where a child can understand it.
Yeah.
And if a child can understand it, we should be able to.
Yes. Yes. I'm not going to tell you who the preacher was, but I went to Falls Creek one year and I had mostly middle school kids, and the preacher got up and he was preaching way over my head. I mean, his vocabulary, it was like I have no idea what half the words meant. I mean, it was just, and I felt really sorry for my middle school kids, because if I couldn't understand it, I felt, I don't know what they were thinking. But sometimes that happens. We need to try to make things simple enough for a kid to understand. That's right.
It's not complicated.
No, it is not complicated. And I'm sure that if you knew what all those words meant, it was probably a very, very good sermon. But it was just things that I don't have a big, long vocabulary, and most of the vocabulary words that maybe I know that other people don't know have to do with chemistry or biology or something that way. It's not the Bible. So I try to keep things simple. One of the first things that we read was Matthew 15. And in it, the Pharisees claimed that Jesus and disciples were breaking the traditions of the elders by not washing their hands before eating. Were those claims correct? Yes, they were. He was breaking the tradition of the elders. But what did Jesus say about that? Do you remember?
It should be observing They should be more, paraphrasing, but more concerned with cleaning up inside.
Yeah, cleaning up inside. Uh-huh. Yes. Right, it's what comes out that defiles a man. That's right. That's from that same little part. He accused them also of breaking God's command, which is much more important, by the example he uses. If a person, probably a young man, really more than a woman, but if he had elderly parents, and instead of taking care of his elderly parents, he said that all of his money was, I don't remember how you put it, it's to God, but it's not like he was giving it, it was devoted to God.
Corban.
Yeah, Corban. And that, if he said it was devoted to God, he still used it however he wanted, but it was devoted to God. So then he didn't have to take care of his parents. And Jesus basically said, it's much more important to do God's will than it is mankind's made up rules. And they had a lot of them. Tell me the story about the Canaanite woman. The one that Jesus called a dog, basically. Can you tell me that story?
Her daughter was demon-possessed,
And her daughter was demon-possessed.
and just one of the disciples had been unable, no, that was a guy.
No, that's a different one, yeah.
Young man.
She went to Jesus and asked Jesus to heal her daughter. And what did Jesus say?
He came to the,
He wasn't sent to,
Right, wasn't sent to the Gentiles, came to the house of Israel. That's the first thing he said. And then he also said, it's not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs, which in a sense is saying she was a dog, right? Now, it sounds really harsh to us, but we can't see the way he said it. We can't know all of the... I mean, in Greek, the word there is more like a little puppy, like a little pet, very close, you know. And so it sounds harsh to begin with, but it wasn't really that harsh. And then she answered. You remember what she said?
even the little puppies get to eat it under their table.
Yeah, get the crumbs that fall off the table. How many of you have dogs that eat the crumbs off the table? That eat them off my plate if I let him get close enough. But he's begging all the time. But yeah, and then how did Jesus respond to that? Do you remember?
He healed her daughter.
Yeah, he healed her daughter.
said her faith had
Yes.
made
She said that you have great faith. And so her daughter was healed at that very moment. It brings up the question, because the daughter was demon-possessed. Does demon possession still happen today?
I think so.
Oh, I think so.
I do too. What about exorcism?
I don't know about that.
Well, I guess it depends on how you look at it. Yes, I believe that through prayer and fasting and things like that, God can do what he wants to do. And I think if we had enough faith, which I think that's one of our problems, is we really don't have enough faith. We have it up here, but we don't have it in here. And if we had enough faith, then I think that we could see that happening a lot more often. But and I also want to say, I don't think it is a set, what do you call it? Ritual, yeah. It's that kind of thing that you do this and then this and then this and then this. If you look at Jesus, when he healed people, he didn't do it the same way every single time. But I do believe that it still happens. In fact, one of Celia's roommates in college, her dad had done that as a minister, a pastor. He had had a person that was demon possessed, and he basically had the faith and prayed about it, and the demon left him. I think a lot of what we have, and I know I'm not everything, okay, maybe not even a lot, but I think there's a lot of things that happen in this world that are really demon possession that we call other things. We may call it mental illness. We may call it being socially distant, whatever word I want there. We can call it a lot of different things, but a lot of it, I think, is demon possession, and we just don't look at it that way today.
Don't you think he could have actually performed that without even speaking? But
Oh,
he
yeah.
spoke to show that it was, I think, his will and his,
Yep.
it was to be observed by them, to give them more faith and
Right. It was to help build the people up that are around him, his disciples and the other people that witnessed it.
I don't think he has to even speak it to
No.
make it happen.
No, I don't think so either. He can do it by thought. He can, one of the passages we read a few weeks ago was about the man that came from a long distance and asked him to heal his son. And he basically said, "Go your way, your son's healed." And he found out on his way home that he was healed that very hour, that time that Jesus said, "Your son is healed." He didn't have to go there. He didn't have to lay hands on him. He didn't have to pray over him. He just said, "Your son's healed." And he was. So I still think a lot of things, a reason I think we don't see near as many miracles today is because of our lack of faith. We're just like Capernaum and some of the other towns. And he said he didn't do very many miracles there because of their lack of faith. And I think that's our problem too. I think we've become too intellectual about a lot of things, and we just don't have the faith that we need and that we should have. What does the name Peter mean? Rock or stone, pebble. It's a little rock. Petros is a big rock, like the mountain. Peter, or Petra, whatever it is, would be a little rock. What did Jesus mean when he said, "Upon this rock I will build my church"? Does that mean he's going to build it on Peter?
No. On this mountain, I'll build my church.
Yes, on this
I think
mountain.
he was talking about upon the confession that Peter had made that
Right.
thou art the Christ.
That's right. Upon that fact that Jesus is the Christ. I believe that's what he's mentioning too. I think that's what it is. What do you call that? Anyway, I think that's what it was referring to, is the fact that Jesus is the Christ. Not the faith, not Peter's statement, not Peter himself, but the fact that Jesus is the Messiah. Jesus is the Son of God. And that's what he's going to build the church on. Another thing, when Jesus healed a blind man, he spit on the ground and this one he just spit and rubbed spit in the guy's eyes. Why do you think Jesus did that?
I wondered about that. For one thing, the blind man had to find a way to get to the,
Right? Yeah. No, that's the later one, where he goes and washes in the pool.
oh,
Yep, this is before that, I think. Because my other questions don't have to do with that one. Yeah, that was the man born blind, and we'll get to that in a minute.
the man born blind.
Yeah, that was the one that he made in the mud. That's what I started to say in this one. But this one, he said he spit in the man's eyes. But spit is considered,
Non-clean.
yeah, very unclean. And
At that time, they had the idea that spit was therapeutic, that it was.
no, I hadn't heard that. That's interesting.
I read that. Well, we're in the book of Mark in my Sunday school class, and that was what was brought out in that class.
In that book, man. Well,
That they considered the saliva
as a healing. Yeah. Okay.
But
Well,
being
that would be a
spit
different-
upon,
Yes.
that wasn't very good. But
Again, he doesn't do the same thing every time. That's one of the big things. And I look at it too, whether it's healing or not, but just the fact that he did that, just showing that he can use whatever means he wants. He can do it however he wants to do it.
Could it be also that we need a sign? He has to do something so we believe.
Yeah, we a lot of times have to do that. We want a sign. We want him to show us something. Yeah. Who does Jesus compare Elijah to?
John the Baptist.
Elijah.
John the Baptist, yeah. Was he Elijah reincarnated? No. He came in the spirit of Elijah, and he was very similar. He was the one to proclaim the way of the Lord. That's what he did. It's interesting. We did Passover several years ago here. We probably ought to do that again sometime, like next year or the year after. But in Passover, one of the last things they do is, and this is a Jewish tradition, is they'll send one of the kids to the door and open the door expecting Elijah to be there, because they believe Elijah is coming back before the Messiah. I mean, the Bible teaches that, but Jesus said that John the Baptist did come in that way. So, and another man comes who had a demon-possessed son, and it says that he often threw him in the fire or water to kill him. And he says, if you can do anything, take pity on us and help us. And Jesus said, if I can. It's like, don't you have faith, or don't you believe? And the guy said, I believe, but help my unbelief. And I think, again, that's something that we need to learn. Sometimes we need to ask God to help us with our unbelief and help us to trust in him more. But what does that say about how demons treated people?
Certainly weren't very nice.
They weren't very nice. He was trying to destroy him, trying to kill him, right? Throw him in the water, drown him.
Sounds like he was trying to kill him.
Yes, trying to kill him. And I think the main reason for that was because he knew that the boy had not accepted Jesus. And he wanted to kill him before he had a chance to do that. And so Jesus heals him and takes pity on him and all of that. What about guardian angels? Do we have guardian angels?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I believe so too. I don't know how many times things have happened, and God has blessed me that I didn't suffer any consequences from some of my poor decisions, especially when it came to driving when I was a teenager. Some of the things I did there. But I think we do have angels watching over us and helping us out. And so
Ryan had a fellow that did our trim work and cabinet work, and he had a grandson that was had problems, and they were out fishing, and the boy was standing on a little pier, and he took a picture of it, and he showed me the picture, and there's a blur right beside him.
yeah,
He said that was his guardian
Yeah.
angel keeping him from falling in that water.
yeah,
Where it was or not, I don't know, but
Right.
that's what they took it to be.
yeah. And I've heard of a lot of stories like that. Is it Guidepost? Is that the one that has a lot of stories like that? Yeah. So I haven't read it in years and years, but I know that there's a lot of things like that. That's kind of beside the point. But a man in Eufaula, he was right at the end of his rope. I mean, he was even considering suicide. And he went and opened up the Yellow Pages, and he looked at this church's phone number, and he called up North Fork Baptist Church and talked to the pastor, and the pastor went to his house, talked to him, led him to the Lord. And he was telling all of that, and he said, the church didn't have their number in the Yellow Pages, didn't even have it in the White Pages. It was not listed, and yet he found it. So angel was looking out for him. What should you do if a brother or sister offends you? 4 steps.
Go and
Go
try
talk
to
to
make it
him.
right.
Go and make it right. I'm sorry.
Go talk to him
Yeah, go talk to them, make it right. And what happens if that doesn't work?
Take them all.
Take some.
Take 2 or 3 with you and go back. And if that doesn't work, take him to the church and then treat him like a Gentile, basically. What does that mean? That's the important thing. What does it mean to treat somebody like a Gentile? Does that mean we don't have anything to do with them? Just completely abandon them?
Probably not.
Probably not. But, you know, what they did with Gentiles, again, the Jewish leaders probably would reject them anyway, but the church was supposed to reach out to them. And I think that's what continually reach out to them. So you try to bring them back into church, bring them back into fold, continually trying to keep that or get that relationship restored. But another thing, it's not in this passage that we read, but another place in the Bible it says if a brother or sister offends you and you're at church, you should leave your offering and first go be reconciled, right? Whose job is it to be to seek reconciliation?
The one offended.
The one offended? Could be. I believe it's the one that remembers. Whoever, if you think about it, and if you remember it, then you need to go take care of it. Whether they offended you or you offended them, you need to go reconcile. If you're the one, if you come to church and you think about it and you remember it, then you need to go take care of that. Parable of the unmerciful servant. Y'all remember that? So the servant owed, and I forgot what she said in today's standards, like $10 billion. And he went and begged the master to forgive him. And the master said, or give him time to make it up. And the master forgave him the whole debt. And then what did he do?
He forgave him that debt.
Yeah, he did, but what did the man do? What did the man do after the master forgave him?
Went after the man alone and
He went to collect something owed to him.
Yeah, and it was more like about $100 in today's standards.
Smaller amount.
And that guy wouldn't pay or couldn't pay. And he didn't forgive him. And it teaches us we owe a debt, our sin debt, that we couldn't pay. It's a lot more than $10 billion. I mean, we couldn't. There's nothing we could do to pay for that debt that we owe God because we are sinners. And yet God forgave us of all of that. So we ought to forgive other people. As a friend of mine in Gainesville, Texas used to say, it's only money. Right? It's only money. Don't worry about it. And you need to, the relationship is much more important. So the man born blind. What did first happen? What did the disciples say about him? Or ask about him? You remember?
The man born blind?
Mm-hmm.
Who sinned?
Who sinned? This man or his parents? That was a pretty prevailing theory, belief during biblical times, that if something was wrong with you, if you were deformed in some way, if you were handicapped in some way, if you had some kind of major sickness or anything like that, it was because of sin. And so the disciples were just, sharing what they had been taught, probably. And he said, who sinned? And what did Jesus say about who sinned?
Actually, he said that the man was blind to be there for that purpose.
Yes. He said it wasn't due to sin. It was so that God could be glorified. And so that poses a problem for us sometimes, because it's like God did this. God made this man blind his whole life so that he could get glory when he healed him. And sometimes it's hard for us to fathom that. But remember, God's ways are much, much higher than our ways, and his thoughts much higher than our thoughts. And if we have trouble understanding something, it's not us. We're not the ones that are right and God's wrong. God is right, and we just need to trust him that he's the one. And then there's a progression as the man goes through. The first time they asked him, he said, well, I know his name was Jesus. So of course, he couldn't point him out because he hadn't seen him, right? He had heard him. Jesus made the mud, spit, made the mud, which is also illegal to do on the Sabbath because it has to do with the mortar that they made to build buildings. And so spitting in the mud was the same as mixing up mortar. And he put it on his eyes and told him to go and wash them, the pool of Siloam. And he went and did that, and then he came back, he was seeing. And they asked him about it, and first of all, he said his name was Jesus. And then a little bit later, they asked him again, and he said, well, he's a prophet. And then they asked him again, and he said, well, he's a man of God. They said, well, we know the Jewish leader said, we know he's a sinner because of all of the things he does. And the man said, how can he be a sinner? He has to be a man of God because nobody could do this miracle of healing a man born blind unless it was God. And then finally, when Jesus meets back with him and talks to him, he realizes that he is the Messiah, the Son of Man, or the Messiah. How did his parents respond during that when the religious leaders came to them?
Well, he's an adult, go ask him.
He's an adult, go ask him. Why did they respond that way?
They didn't want to be kept out of the church.
Yeah, they didn't want to be kicked out of the synagogue. And that would have happened. And apparently it did happen to this man because they said they threw him out, which is kind of, sad because he had spent his whole life being kicked out because of his blindness. And he gets healed, and then he believes in Jesus, and they kick him out again. Tell me about the parable about the Good Samaritan. Oh, come on. Y'all know this story.
It's probably one of the most widely known.
It is, yeah. Widely known stories, parables. So what happened?
Well, the people that you think might stop to help him
Wouldn't.
until that
Yeah.
Samaritan.
He fell among thieves, and they beat him up and left him for dead, took all of his money. And then who came by first? A priest. And the priest went on the far side. Why would a priest do that?
He could have been, he dirtied himself if he touched him.
Right. He could have made himself unclean, because if he touched the man or tried to help the man died, he would be unclean. And he might have been headed to church to preach, or go to the synagogue to do stuff, and he didn't want to take the chance on becoming unclean by touching this man who might die. So he passed by. And then who came next?
On the other side of the road.
Yes, he crossed on the other side of the road. Who came next? A Levite. And what did the Levite do?
Same thing.
Same thing.
At least he looked at him, though.
Yeah, and probably the same reason. Yeah, he looked at him, but yeah, same reason, because he didn't want to become unclean. And then came a Samaritan. Why did Jesus use a Samaritan for this story?
Poured wine and oil on him and put him up on
Yeah.
his donkey and took him to an inn
Right?
and said, whatever, take care of him.
Yep.
Whatever else it takes.
I'll pay for it, yeah. He put oil and wine, took care of his immediate injuries, took him to a place, told him to take care of him, and he'd pay anything. But why did Jesus choose a Samaritan as opposed to another Jew?
The way they were looked at.
Yeah, the way they were looked at by Jews, because the Jews hated the Samaritans hated the Jews.
Same reason that he used some other
Yes,
undesirable people.
yes, he did.
And also helped the Samaritan at the same time.
Right,
Pass God the message on to the Samaritan as
Right.
well.
yeah. I mean, he'd already witnessed to a Samaritan woman, which again was a big no-no for a Jewish man to do. I think he was trying to show everybody that people are people, and they all need the Lord. Like the song that was played Sunday, wasn't it Sunday? When she played "People Need the Lord." everybody needs the Lord. And we need to be out reaching everyone, not just people that look like us and act like us and, you know, our same socioeconomic level as us or whatever, but we need to be out there reaching everyone. Okay? Anything else? Because it's time. All right. Well, let's stand. I'll go get the words up there for you.
God will make a way where there seems to be no way. He works in ways we cannot see. He will make a way for me. He will be my guide. Hold me closely to his side. With love and strength for each new day, he will make a way. He will make a way.
He will make a way.
I just thought of something about Jack's pacemaker. When I got mine, the nurse said, looked at it, at what they put in. She said, "You got the cataract."